Good afternoon. You're tuning in to the Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session. Today is Thursday, February 3rd, 2022. It is 2:02 p.m. This is a virtual meeting. For public attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel or join by calling 360-252-9020, PIN number 1234. I am Carolina Mejia, Chair of the Board. I am joined via Zoom by Vice Chair Ty Menser, Commissioner Gary Edwards joining us via the boardroom, as well as County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, as well as many other staff members joining us via Zoom. Today we are reviewing A-7 Low Impact Development LID Code Amendment. So should I hand it off to you, County Manager, or should I hand it off to our Director?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is, I believe, a long-awaited briefing the board has been expecting, so I'm glad that we have come to this point. And I believe the Planning Commission has provided some feedback related to this particular proposal. Staff is going to walk you through that. And with no further ado, who's going to take the lead, Josh? You, go ahead.
Thank you, County Manager. Yes, thank you. So this, we've been looking forward to providing this update to the Board of County Commissioners. I wanted to say two quick thanks. Thank you to the board. First, for narrowing the scope and being very specific on what you are requesting our staff to engage with the Planning Commission on. Knowing exactly what we should be asking and clarifying is really helpful. So thank you to the board for that. And thank you to the staff. I know you guys had a long night last night at Planning Commission. So appreciate you being here, bright-eyed, and able to provide this information. Thanks to all. And I will probably stay off camera, but I think Chris has the ball from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Christina Chapeau, Interim Planning Manager for Community Planning in CPED. I just want to set the stage because it's been a little bit since the board has seen or heard about LID as staff has worked through this internally with the departments, created the ordinance, and then moved through the Planning Commission process. So as a reminder, low impact development, it's a small piece of a large interconnected regulatory framework. We've got state and federal rules that are all interconnected and intermingled in this, and it does influence how the county operates in so much as that we have a permit that has required us to adopt these LID rules. LID is all about, or low impact development is all about getting a site to perform when it's developed as it would have when it's undeveloped, and mimicking those natural processes to infiltrate and absorb the rainwater so that it doesn't flow off the property and create or carry pollutants into our waters, our wetlands, our surface waters. Is it's bad for water quality, it's bad for fish, and it's bad for people. So there are some key principles about low impact development. Conserve vegetation on site as you develop to the greatest extent practical, and as much native vegetation as possible. It's reducing the amount of hard surfaces and disconnecting them. It's also providing more area for infiltration to reduce right there, or excuse me, to infiltrate right there on site so it doesn't run off. So in 2016, as part of the requirements of our municipal stormwater permit, the county did adopt LID regulations. And there was a lot of work that Thurston County and TRPC did as far as public outreach, reaching out to stakeholders, and developing the policy. The Board of County Commissioners at that time adopted the code changes. And there are a variety of code changes in a variety of codes, our building, our zoning, our planning and subdivision ordinances, as well as our drainage and design manuals. Like I said, this is a large interconnected framework of regulation. But with all major code changes, you start to implement them and notice that those changes may not work as anticipated or as pictured, and need to make adaptive management or make adjustments along the way. And that's what we're doing here. So In 2020, the board placed this particular item on the docket, and it was about mid-range. The staff started working on the project by gathering a group of smart people internally from Public Works, from Development Services and CPED, and the planners to take a look at what was and what wasn't working, are there perceived or real issues, and moving them through the process to develop these very targeted changes. This is not a wholesale of the LID code or policies. So that's really what I wanted to do, is just frame this out and provide that basis for you and for Andrew to take it away.
Go ahead, Commissioner Menser.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask before we get into the details about the scope, because Josh and Chris both said accurately that the board was very targeted in what we wanted to be looked at. But in the materials that we were provided, and I've gone through everything very carefully, it talks about hard surface credits for lots 2.5 acres less, lots needing long access driveways, 10% impervious surface on large rural lots, and Ken Lay Special Overlay District. So just to make sure I wasn't off base, I went back to the planning session from April 2020, and I listened to the entire thing last night and loosely transcribed it. And just to confirm my recollection, which was accurate, which is that we didn't talk anything. I don't even know what Ken Lake Overlay District is. Maybe that fits within lots under 2.5. But we specifically discussed and said we did not want to look at impervious surface limits on large rural lots. I can go through the transcription that I made of that briefing if there's any question about it. I don't know that we need to do that, but that confirms something that we had done in 2019 where Commissioner Hutchings was gone. It was just me and Commissioner Edwards. So twice over, we were very clear, and Josh, actually, Commissioner Edwards raised questions about that. He said there were issues on 5-acre parcels. He wasn't sure he wanted to limit it to 2.5. And Josh said, please, we're working very well with applicants over 2.5. We just think we need to address this under 2.5. Let us work on that, see how, makes that fix, see if there's other problems later. And that was it. And then even Commissioner Edwards agreed with that, and Commissioner Hutchings and I agree with that. So I'm not sure where we got this idea that we're working on 10% impervious surface on large rural lots. I don't know anything about Ken Lake Special Overlay District. That was never brought up in any meeting I've ever been a part of. And then I guess we did talk about the long driveways, but again, I thought we were working on the issue of flexibility for lots under 2.5 acres. So I just want to make sure that's clear, because I'll probably object to any work that was done that exceeded the scope of what the board authorized.
Yeah, and Andrew will get into all the specifics, but maybe just in how we framed up the work that we did, there's no change to the 10%. There's some consistency issues between different codes. And some implementation issues when it comes to these larger lots and how we were implementing them. Like I said, Andrew will get into the details, but we did understand that this was a narrow scope and we stayed within that narrow scope.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. I'll just start the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Can everyone see the screen?
Great. You got it.
Thank you. Andrew Bond, an associate planner with community planning. This afternoon, I'm presenting on the Low Impact Development Code Amendment. We have a short 30-minute briefing, so I kindly ask that the board hold any questions until the end of the presentation. Today's presentation will discuss the background on the proposal, an overview of the proposed amendment, public comment and stakeholder review, and the Planning Commission recommendation. The direction staff is seeking from the board is whether the board would like staff to bring back any additional information or move forward with and schedule a public hearing. The proposed amendment being reviewed as part of the docket item corrects issues that have been identified by the Public and Development Services and regulations originally adopted in 2016. The proposed amendments will streamline and improve the permitting outcome for landowners with unique situations like irregular shaped lots, modify hard surface credits to work better for single family homes, improve consistency among the codes and county plans, and address LID regulations that are challenging for development services to implement. On April 23rd, 2020, the board specified 4 aspects for the counties to address within the development code docket item A-7. Allow hard surface credits to be applied on lots 2.5 acres or less, lots needing long access driveways, the Kin Lake Special Overlay District, and 10% impervious surface limits for large rural lots. Some of these aspects overlap a bit, like allowing hard surface credits to be applied to small lots also works to address the irregular shaped lots, like flag lots. And the 10% impervious surface limit aspect addresses the need for long access driveways. Other challenges like the Kin Lake Special Overlay District are more administrative in nature to better align the code internally. Included with these 4 aspects are also definitions, updated references, and improved process improvements that will simplify the overall review process for the property owner. The amendments include several updates and updated and new definitions that address the standard terminology associated with low impact development. And those can be found also within the county's drainage design and erosion control manual. The definitions refer to the manual directly, which improves consistency among county code and other planning documents, improves transparency and clarity to the public and planning staff, and should reduce the need for future amendments to the definitions within Title 20 if the definitions change within the manual. The added definitions include effective impervious surface, full dispersion, and ineffective impervious surface. The definitions already existing that are just being updated to refer to the manual directly include hard surface, impervious surface, and pervious surface. Amendments to Section 20.07.090 are primarily aimed at increasing flexibility for landowners around hard surface limits and increasing flexibility in situations where landowners might have irregular shaped lots, like flag lots, or need long access driveways. In Section 20.07.090, hard and impervious surface limits would add ineffective impervious surface as an area not to be included under the total for hard surfaces and add reference to the manual. The addition of ineffective impervious surface as an area to not be included under the total for hard surfaces addresses the 10% impervious surface limits on large rural lots and provides additional flexibility during the review process for landowners to meet impervious surface limits, which may be specifically helpful in cases of large lots and the need for long access driveways. Additionally, in 20.07.090-2A, previously limited credits related to hard surface coverage limits on lots larger than 2.5 acres in specific zones. The proposed amendment removes those limitations, allowing hard surface credits to apply to all lot sizes, including lots 2.5 acres or less. This will allow the hard surface credits to be utilized for and provide flexibility for situations where landowners need long access driveways or have irregular shaped lots. Amendments to the PRD standards in Chapter 20.30.050 and PRRD standards in Chapter 20.30A.070 would change when hard surface coverage limits are calculated for these planned developments. Currently, planned developments in PRDs and PRRDs exempt individual lots from hard surface coverage limits, but the development as a whole is required to meet hard surface coverage limits for the underlying zone, including lots, streets, access ways, and other paved surfaces within the development. Development Services has identified this as a difficult regulation to track and calculate, and can result in unbuildable lots by creating a first come, first served scenario where properties developed in the development easily meet the requirement, but the last properties to develop in the planned development are sometimes unable to meet the hard surface requirements. The proposed change would require each individual lot in the planned development to meet the hard surface requirements of the underlying zoning. This will provide development services and ability to track hard surface coverages and enforce them fairly across all permits in the development, and ensure that all citizens in the development will have the opportunity to develop their lots. Amendments to Chapter 04.080 residential districts would add hard surface coverage to the footnote in Table 4.04 and to the Ken Lake Impervious Surface Overlay District. This reference was not included when the Olympia UGA code was updated during the 2016 update, and results in inconsistencies and inconsistent application of hard surface regulations in the code. This is primarily an administrative correction. The addition of hard surface coverage provides consistency with other zoning districts in Title 20. This change will improve the clarity for the public and improve consistency in application of hard surface regulations during permitting. Staff worked with various county agencies to ensure that the targeted set of issues identified by the board in 2020 were addressed, including Public Works, Development Services, and the Stormwater Program Coordinator. In addition to the departments mentioned above, the Storm and Surface Water Advisory Board, or SWAB, was provided the proposed code changes in a brief presentation on November 18th, 2021, and invited to provide comment on the proposal. At this time, staff has not received any public comment on the proposal. The Thurston County Planning Commission has completed its review of the Development Code Docket Item A-7, Low Impact Development. The Planning Commission held 2 work sessions on October 6th and November 3rd, 2021, followed by a public hearing on December 1st, 2021. No written or oral comments were received from the public. Following the public hearing on December 1st, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed LID code amendment. Staff are looking for a direction from the board. The next steps are to schedule a public hearing with the board. Pending the board's direction, staff is prepared to bring forward an AIS to request a public hearing date in late March. Optimal timeframes for the direction would be next Tuesday, February 8th. I'll open it up to the board to discuss at this point if there's any additional information needed before moving the item forward. Thank you.
Andrew, could you go back to your 4th slide that covers the scope real quick? I'd just like to touch on this before we get into questions with the board. So as Commissioner Menser mentioned at the beginning of the work session today, some of these things don't necessarily look familiar to our commissioners, but I do want to talk about the 10% impervious surface limits and the Ken Lake Special Overlay District real quick. So the 10% impervious surface limits, as Andrew mentioned, what we're doing here is we're adding a definition under there of area that's not calculated as a hard surface. And that really aligns our current county code with the Drainage and Design Erosion Control Manual. So we were implementing it correctly, aligning with the DDECM. However, the way the code is currently written is not transparent to citizens. And particularly what we were seeing were citizens on large rural lots who need long driveways that came in, and this code was a little bit inconsistent with what the Drainage and Design Manual was saying. So that change is primarily to ensure consistency in our county plans. And the Ken Lake Special Overlay District is an administrative change in nature. So this was something that was just missed during the 2016 update. And it's a very small change. It just adds a footnote of what is included in the calculation. So it's a consistent application across all of our county code.
Hey, Maya, I guess the thing that I'm still kind of a little bit interested in is how we got to the BOCC specified 4 aspects to address. Is it an issue of wording? Because to Commissioner Mintzer's point earlier, the scope was narrow, and I understand that the policy on 10% hasn't changed in Ken Lake, but it was about how we implement it, right? So you've got the long-range planning that you're talking about, but talking with development services, there were places that needed to be adjusted to create transparency and consistency. But I think it's still the BOCC specified that's tripping us up a little. Can you help us out with that?
Right, that's correct. And a lot of these kind of overlap. So like I mentioned, the 10% kind of aligns with the lawn access driveways. We've just called it out so it's a little bit more explicit for the public through the process.
Thank you. Okay, questions, comments, Commissioner Edwards?
You know, I see Commissioner Menzer has his hand up, and I kind of remember us talking about this. I don't know if my memory is as good as his memory is as far as having reviewed it, but, so maybe I'll just listen to him for a second, and then maybe I'll step in. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Commissioner Menzer.
I only stuck my hand up because I wanted to follow up on Josh's point, and because I was going to make the same point. I mean, it would have been better if it had said the board specified, X, and then follow-up work on that led to the need to address Y and Z. That would have saved me a couple of hours last night and a heart attack a couple of weeks ago. Just, to say that we specified these 4 things, and I mean, if you think of, it's been almost 2 years. So if you think about the amount of briefings I've been at in 2 years, and I was like, I am certain that we did not specify those 4 things, but I wanted to be accurate. And so I spent that time and did that legwork. So I would have appreciated not having to do that by it being more clearly described how we got to where we got. I'm going to stop there because I got other questions, but we can go in order. That's fine.
Well, I'll just go real quick because I think that's a mea culpa on me. You and I talked about that, Commissioner Menzer. I relayed that concern to the staff. They said that they had information to communicate. They did a good job, but I didn't finish that dot connection. So my apologies, Commissioner.
Okay.
Am I up, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
As we move forward with this, I see that the Planning Commission has a recommendation. And does that recommendation match with staff's recommendation?
The proposed ordinance that they recommend approval for is the same ordinance that you are looking at this meeting.
So everybody's on the same page here,
Correct.
Planning Commission and the staff. Okay, so I just want to simplify this question and see if I've got it right. I believe what brought this about, going quite a ways back, years back, but there was one issue. I want to say it was a 5-acre parcel, a very long driveway, and the long driveway ate up the impervious percentage so that a family was not able to build their daughter a horse barn. That's just the way I remember it. Although the county took the money from the individual and started in the process, in the end, they said, no, we can't do it because of this 10%. You've got this long driveway, and there might have been some other things in there. They actually gave the person the money back, as far as I know. I think they did a refund. Hutch was faced with something over in East Olympia in which it was a similar situation, and it was a shared driveway. And I think they were both getting dinged for a full driveway on each one of their properties somehow. So somehow or another, that all came together. And then talking with staff, we realized that the 10% was creating a roadblock to common sense usage of the property. Wasn't gonna. So are you saying now that this driveway thing changes that a little bit, so there's some, I don't know, mitigation factor or something, that the driveway doesn't count as much as it did, or you're giving an exception for the drive? What's going on? How is this gonna fix those problems maybe that I just ineptly described to you?
Like Maya had mentioned, they're all interconnected. So with the long driveways, the credits will now be able to be utilized for those smaller lots, but irregular shaped lots. they'll be able to utilize those credits to be able to meet the needs of that property, including access as well as being able to develop their lots. So there's no exception. It's just providing a secondary path for them to be able to accomplish the same as a standard rectangular shaped lot.
What is the credit? I guess I don't know what that is possibly.
There's a variety of options for credits. It's through landscape mitigation and whatnot to accomplish, or that's way to describe it, substitute like a standard rectangular lot with open yard space. Instead, they can do additional mitigation techniques on the property through a wide variety of options to be able to kind of substitute that open land that a normal property would have to then be able to still also develop their property, if that makes sense.
Well, so to answer your question, Commissioner, yes, that's exactly what we're addressing.
And so is this going to make it so that the lady that wanted to build the horse barn under this set of regulatory enactments, she'd be able to do that?
It would have provided Brett's group a lot more flexibility, and likely yes.
And at the same time, we would protect the environment.
There would be options for that irregular shape to hold that water on site.
So maybe like a, I don't know, I'm gonna just use a settling pond along the driveway before the water would go out to the county road, if it was even gonna go out there.
It could be.
Like that.
It'd be up to the applicant.
That may be one of the tools they can use. Yeah.
It gives the landowner some possibilities.
So what it does, it creates, on your example, you know, the property owner that you cited, it came to a halt. They couldn't move forward.
Yeah.
So this particular proposal provides that flexibility for the property owner to exercise options. They can meet their intended plans for their development.
And that'd be the mitigation they're talking
Yeah,
about?
absolutely. So it gives a series of tools as to how the property owner, and the example that you highlighted, they can move forward building a home, building a barn, and not be only restricted by the percentage of the lot driveway.
And it gives tools to the permitters, to the Development Services Group, to be more flexible in what they can allow. So the applicant got to a stopping point, and our permit reviewers didn't have the tools to be more flexible. When you say if you say yes to this, the Brett's group will have more tools to be more flexible. And that's why the Planning Commission is in support of it also.
Okay, I think I get it. It's pretty complicated stuff, but I think I get it. It's not any more restrictive than it was.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Perhaps the
It-
latter. Perhaps the opposite.
Perhaps going the other way. And that it used to be, prior to 16, I think it was 70% you could, I don't know, I guess pave over, I guess, something like that. Then it went to 10%. And so does it need to go to 20% or something? Would that also have covered this, or is what you're doing here a better way to do it?
This is the direction that we were provided by the board, and this adds flexibility within the parameters that we currently have.
And the Planning Commission thought this was a pretty good way to go.
Correct.
Okay. I think that's it for me, ma'am. I think.
Okay. Commissioner Menser?
Thank you. So looking at the memorandum that you guys gave us, the second chunk of that memorandum is what I thought we were doing. So I'm good. And I wanted to understand a little more about hard surface credits. And I've got enough information from what was just asked and answered. So I'm okay there. So I support that piece. That's what I thought we were doing. The rest of this is going to take a lift because I didn't know that I was even going there. So I want to start with the first chunk, which is this idea of creating a definition of ineffective impervious surface, and then that being not counted. So what does that mean? What is now not counted that was counted before? And why is that? Is that a scientifically justified change? Do other counties include a definition like that? Like, where is this coming from?
So ineffective impervious surfaces is already applied in that same manner in the Drainage and Design Erosion Control Manual. And Andrew, I don't know if you have that definition written down, but we do have Shannon Peterson on the call who might be able to speak to what exactly an ineffective impervious surface is.
Yeah, sure. So basically the definition in the drainage manual is for ineffective is runoff that's either dispersed through at least 1,000 feet of native vegetation in accordance with our full dispersion best management practice, residential roof runoff that is infiltrated with accordance with the downspout full infiltration best management practice, or continuous runoff modeling that indicates the entire runoff file is infiltrated.
What is the drainage manual and who owns it?
The Drainage Design and Erosion Control Manual is basically guidance on how development and redevelopment occurs in unincorporated Thurston County, and it's driven by our stormwater permit. From ecology, yes.
We just had a briefing on that this morning. A very, very good briefing on the stormwater manual.
And so this is aligning our code to what ecology says. Is that right?
And why were these things not, why were these things counted before if they're all dispersed and or infiltrated on the site and not a problem? Or I didn't know that. I don't know how this works exactly. How you get, what do we care about to get to 10% of what, you know, 10% of any hard surface, 10% of certain types. Sounds like now we don't care if it's a hard surface as long as it functions in a certain way. So it's not really about a hard surface limit. It's about a unmitigated hard surface limit that doesn't self-infiltrate. I don't know. Help me with this. I'm not quite getting it.
Yeah, that is really what it's getting at. It's about how do we keep that water on that site, in what tools to use to do that, if it's dispersion or if it's some of the other tools that are in the Design and Erosion Control Manual. We call it, you know, we deal with it from a hard surface standpoint because that's where the water doesn't infiltrate. But if they have additional tools on their site that they've implemented that allows that area to infiltrate there, then not that we don't care, but it mitigates for those issues.
So right now, 10% hard surface, doesn't matter where the water goes or whatever, is the limit. Now we're saying 10% that doesn't utilize these tools. And who makes that, who decides whether a certain square footage of hard surface is deemed ineffective impervious surface? And that word is, I guess this is from ecology, so I can't blame you guys, but it's very confusing to say ineffective. Ineffective to do what? It's kind of backwards, right? What it really means is that, I actually can't understand what it means.
Yeah, I can't
anyway.
either. I'm glad you're having difficulty on that, sir, just so you know.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, but you're exactly correct, Commissioner Menser. So our drainage manual has already been considering these surfaces. It's just that our code didn't necessarily align with that drainage manual. And so this makes the two consistent. And the way it works is when someone comes in and applies for a permit, Development Services works with the Public Works Development Review Team, and they review that site plan, and they look at what native vegetation is proposed on the site, and they make that evaluation. So it's done permit by permit through the permitting staff that are involved with those. But this change really aligns our code with the drainage manual, and it just ensures that flexibility is transparent for the permitting staff. So
is an ineffective hard surface, does that mean water goes through it?
It means that ineffective hard surface is basically surface that doesn't allow rainwater to go through it down to the aquifer. It runs off.
Wait.
And
Yes. So if you allow me, I just read the definition for an effective impervious area, and that's an area where there is no opportunity for surface runoff from an impervious site to infiltrate into the soil before it reaches a conveyance system.
That's an
That's
That's an
the
effective, yes.
effective.
Yes.
effective impervious.
So
Yes.
I agree with Commissioner Mensah. The title seems to be counterintuitive to actually the function of what is intended to do.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
the ineffective previous surfaces, what you do is give you enough tools to deal with impervious surfaces to manage it on site. And when you don't have the opportunities, whether you have restrictions on the soils or you just don't have the area to manage those on site, then you have to take it somewhere else outside of the lot, and all of a sudden that becomes effective.
So we got into a debate in earlier times about gravel driveways, and gravel is compact. If gravel is compacted to a certain amount, it's considered an impervious surface. And that's not changing, I would not imagine. You're saying that though it might not count if the runoff from the compacted gravel is mitigated by something nearby, or doesn't get to a conveyance system, as you put it. So it is an impervious surface, but it might be an ineffective impervious surface under certain situations. Is that accurate? Okay, I see nodding, so I'll take that. And then like Commissioner Edwards brought up that driveway issue, and I remember that, where this is a kind of off topic, but I remember the situation where two parcels shared a driveway, and we were being told that both were getting dinged for the entire, like half of the driveway was on one parcel and half was on the other, but for some weird reason, both parcels were being charged with the full extent of the driveway for their 10% limit. And that was another piece where I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. That's being unnecessarily restrictive. And is that true? And if it's true, is any of this have anything to do with helping change that?
So yes, there have been situations like that where there's been difficulties implementing the 2016 regulations. A lot of that is not necessarily addressed in this specific code language. This code language is primarily geared at addressing inconsistencies between the drainage manual and also ensuring flexibility for landowners and making sure our code language is transparent. But we have had several discussions with development services and also development review on the public works side about what implementation of these codes look like. So that's an implementation piece, and that comes following code changes. And we've already started those discussions with the development services team.
That's right.
Okay.
And those topics, so they have been addressed in Brett's group, in the development services group, and how the code is implemented, if that's helpful.
Okay, and I know time's short. I'm going to try to be fast. I want to go back. I want to tie the bow up on that first piece about this effective impervious service. Is this, I mean, obviously it sounds like we were doing something that was have to have inconsistent definitions and made it hard to implement. So what we're proposing to do here and allow this new definition or expanded definition is, I would imagine that's consistent with other jurisdictions' approach, or do we know that?
We don't
allowing these types of hard surfaces to not count if they, do X, Y, or Z or infiltrate there. Is that a industry standard type of approach?
Shannon, do you have any background on, based on the manual, if that's the case?
I don't, as far as impervious surface limit code and other jurisdictions, because as far as the manual goes, it does not prescribe those type of limits. It just tells you how you need to address those surfaces.
Okay. Now moving, so I'm going to want to know a little more about that. And then going to the third block, which is the PRD and PRRD. I didn't really understand that at all from reading the memo. I think I understand a little better based on Andrew's description, but I'm just wondering how extensive, like these are terms of art in the development world and building world that I don't know, like, are these like everywhere, like every subdivision? I live in a subdivision. Do I live in a PRD, or are these like special things that only, happen once in a couple places in the county? I mean, how much of an extensive change are we talking about by making these changes? Because the board has never talked about this PRD, PRRD.
Yeah,
piece.
so I'll touch on that a little bit. You might be living in a planned development, but we don't see these types of applications very often anymore. We get maybe one every 5 to 10 years. They're not a common thing anymore at Thurston County. But this change specific to PRDs and PRRDs is not how we are calculating hard surfaces for the developments, but when we are calculating those hard surfaces. So currently, the way the code is written says it's calculated at the end of the platting process after everything is all built out and all of the streets and access ways and everything would count towards the credit, the ultimate allowance. Development Services has communicated that that's very hard to track. It can result in a first come first serve scenario where there might be lots that are at the very end and they can't meet that hard surface requirement for the whole development. So this is really adjusting the code language to count it sequentially as the planned development is being built out. So by each individual lot, and making sure that each lot complies with the same hard surface requirement as what would be applied to the overall development. And that results in each lot will have the same opportunity. It kind of eliminates that first come first serve scenario, and it makes it easier for Development Services to track.
So is it fair to say that the overall amount of hard surface or impervious surface is not increased by this change? It's just making it more equitable from parcel to parcel within a particular area. Is that fair?
That's exactly correct.
Okay, then I'm good with.
And that loops back to the 2.5 and below. So think about that last lot that gets built and it's 2 acres. It's going to have a tough time with the impervious surface because it wasn't equitable all the way through. So that's why that one, it looks like the board didn't direct that, but it's connected to the 2.5 and below.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is it like, how did this piece get included in this? Did you guys, stumble on this as you did the work, or has this been a recurrent issue from the outside, or did somebody specifically say that's something you can't, forget here, or
This team that you're looking at talked to Brett's team and said, what do you need to change to have it implemented better? And one of the things that the Development Services team said was it gets calculated at the end, and that's hard.
Okay, I'll let Commissioner Mejia take a shot.
Okay, well, it's 2:45. I know that we have another briefing coming up. And I'm not sure if we can schedule maybe at a Tuesday meeting, Ramiro, a follow-up on this.
Yes, I see there's some questions and maybe a follow-up that we need to provide to the board. And the question that I have is, give a little more time. The next time will be February 15th in the morning. As a follow-up, maybe at that time, staff will have the opportunity to provide additional questions. All the commissioners can reach out to staff. The question that I have is Commissioner Mejia is going to be out of the office. Will you feel comfortable to bring it on the 15th, or just move it to the 22nd? I think just to be respectful of your process, Commissioner Mejia.
Well, it was really good for me, like where I'm standing on this. Obviously, there's a lot of history on this, and hearing Commissioner Menser's questions and hearing Commissioner Edwards' questions and comments about just this whole docket item, it really helped me kind of understand the bigger picture instead of just laying it out here on paper. So thank you both for that. I'm comfortable on the 15th with, if Commissioner Edwards and Menser are. If not, then, the 22nd.
And just to remind the board, the direction that we're seeking is for you to authorize us bringing an AIS to set a public hearing. You're not approving at this point any proposals. It's just to allow the public process to continue based on the information that we're providing you.
This has been going since before I got on the board. So there's no rush to get this done next week. I'd rather have Commissioner Mejia there. I'd rather have staff a little extra time to answer my question, which is mainly about this ineffective impervious surfaces. I want to make sure that I want to know that if I approve this, I'm not going out on a limb and putting Thurston County out somewhere that our neighboring jurisdictions are not, because that would be relevant information for my consideration. So that might take, more than a few days.
Commissioner Edwards?
Okay, and just so, I guess so you know, I'm not always ready to go, but I believe I'm ready to go. I have a good understanding, Commissioner Mentzer's questions and the staff laying it out. So if staff wanted to work with Commissioner Mentzer to address some of his concerns or something, I'm there.
You're there. Okay, how about if I'll bring this for the 22nd, a week later? And the board members will have the opportunity to discuss it just a week later. Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
So I'll bring this on February the 22nd during the agenda setting, and then we'll see how the board would like to continue. And again, what we will be asking for the board, if you feel comfortable to take the next step, for you to consider setting a public hearing.
You know,
That's perfect. That'll work.
let me just comment. Commissioner Mentzer put a lot of extra work into this, it looks like. But I don't even remember everything that I put into it 2, 3, 4 years ago. I can't even remember what it was. But I ended up going out in the field with a white 5-gallon pail, drilling a whole bunch of holes in the bottom, putting about 3 inches of gravel of some kind of rock or something to disperse the water, and then you had to dump in, I don't know, 2 gallons of water and watch your watch. And I had to put clay around the bottom of the bucket so it couldn't go out anywhere else too. So there is some complicated science there now. I just don't know. Can't remember it all. I see Josh has got his hand up there.
Yeah, I know we're past time. I just wanted to say this is complicated stuff and it takes time. The reason that there's so much time in between the last time you heard this is the Planning Commission needed to understand it to make a recommendation. So staff worked really hard to bring them up to speed and recognize that, it comes every so often. So thank you for your questions. We're open to them. We look forward to next steps.
Great. Thank you so much. With that, we are adjourned.
Thank you. We have a different Zoom, and I think it's the same player, so we'll see you in a minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.